SubCommittee. We'll start with attendance. We're going to do the same thing. Go around the room, say who's here. Andrew, we'll start with you.
Andrew Hennies, attorney for the committee.
Kenny Duba, superintendent.
Erin Earl, school committee chair.
Oh, this is me, Jennifer Lima, school committee member.
Stephanie Russo, HR director.
Okay, first thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes from the last, citizens' comments, but nobody's here for citizens' comments. Next thing is approval from the 5/12, meeting. Did everybody get a chance to review them?
Yes.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from May 12th.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. So we've got a bunch of policies. We had the suicide prevention policy, which is one of the ones that RIDE requires us to review annually on a previous agenda. We had asked that you bring it back to your staff, specifically the mental health staff, for review. I saw that a lot of them made comments, and added some input, which was great. If you go into the folder, there is a file that says Redline Suicide Prevention. Which has some of the changes that they've made. But there are also some comments and questions that they had noted there. Is everybody in the file?
I'm trying, sorry, my internet was being funky, but I'm in the folder now.
I only have 2 people in. I'm counting. Okay. Andrew, are you in?
I'm in.
Erin?
I'm in.
Okay, here we go. So we had talked the last time about updating the purpose and the philosophy. And so those have been updated. And then there are some comments that have been added, as well. So I just kind of wanted to walk through this. Ken, I don't know if you've had a chance to review this since they've added their inputs.
So I have not. I'm looking at it right now, just what. I'm just reading that first comment about not referencing kids link in the policy.
Do you know if that reference came from us, Jen, or from?
It's from the model policy.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
It's from the state.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
So I think that there is a lot to go through with this, but because we do have people here for the other policies, maybe do you wanna talk about those so that we don't hold up the guests and then go back to this one?
Are the red line ones, like, did you make those, cross out all that, or
No,
they
this
did?
this is them, yeah.
Okay. Yes, Andrew, thank you. Do you want me to copy and paste it and maybe like resolve the?
I deliberately left the comments unresolved
I know,
because
but
they need to be discussed.
They crossed off the whole document.
Yeah, but
That's
who
why we
made
need
the
to discuss.
who crossed out certain sections?
I don't know, like, this was how the document came back.
I mean, I can tell you if we go back through history,
Yeah, history. I was
but
just trying to see none of it's linked.
looks
to
like
comment.
Sherry did most of it.
And it does, if you go down, like, it has been added just in a shorter version.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of it's
Yes.
been, but like. Okay. No, I think we have to do this, so we have to do this,
Okay,
is my
because-
opinion.
Okay, because.
I know, but like, it's the suicide prevention policy
I
for
know.
students that we have to
Yeah.
do by state, like.
Okay,
So, it looks like they moved that kids like one down.
That comment is weird because it's up at the top, but
Yeah.
it pertains to something that's at the very bottom.
Alright. I'm resolving it because I don't think we should take it out. It's one that it's not
Okay.
working as well as it should, but
Yeah, definitely leave it.
like like that's good internally to know that that might not be as good of a resource as they hope it would be, but like
Yeah, that
if
one's
it
okay.
comes with a
Yep.
model policy, like that's what it is.
Yep, okay, that one's gone.
Did you do this, Jen, like with the purpose?
No.
Alright.
The only thing that I've done with this is to add a couple questions in the comments, I think. This
Mhm.
is all.
Yeah, there's multiple, staff members who went in and added to the document when I look at it,
Yep,
so.
I'm fine with the new purpose. I think we have to like put in the things that they didn't, like this policy is adopted by the committee, like, you know, it's not quite written correctly, but
Yeah.
like the genesis of what they wrote is
Yeah.
fine.
so there was a question about whether we should add the statistics for.
Yeah, I would do it. I'm reading that paragraph now. I think it's, cause we have statistics for other groups, but not that demographic group. Right?
I don't love putting statistics in a policy that are connected to a date like that. Like I get what they're trying to do there, but like every single year that this policy exists, those are gonna become more and
Further
more
away.
outdated. So it doesn't make it very ever long. Like I get the concept and like maybe the main statistic, but and like maybe a sentence about like what they're trying to say is basically that the rates are higher for Hispanic, Black, and gay, lesbian, and bisexual youth. Like, so I don't like I understand under the philosophy of like why it's important, but I don't love citing numbers like that.
I mean, I think that trend has been a continuing trend, so I think just saying suicide is a leading cause of death among young people locally, nationally, and globally, and, you know, just saying that rates are higher for, Hispanic, Black, and leaving the statistics out, right?
Or just leave them and it'll be wrong. Because if you you'd have to take out the whole citation, and I think the citation's probably important.
Okay. Now,
And I don't think we should do what was suggested in the comments.
I don't either. And I also, it does say that the, numbers are for high school, but this isn't a cross grades policy, but I think,
I'll look and see if there's anything in that survey that references other age
Okay.
groups. Because I understand the concept of wanting to be inclusive.
so I don't, the definitions were crossed out, and I don't know whether they're needed or not. I looked at some of the other policies, and they're not necessarily in all other districts' policies,
Where are you?
uh,
Definitions?
under definitions.
I think that top part's important, like defining what a comprehensive approach to suicide prevention means. I don't know if they put it somewhere else, but
Scan down.
So do you wanna put them all back?
well, let me see. why they removed them?
Could you not?
I can find out. I mean, I was gonna suggest that we maybe move the definitions towards the end of the document, that way they're there. Instead of
Usually
keep
in
'em
our
just-
policies, the
I
definitions
know
are,
they are usually in front, I'm just wondering
Yeah.
that way just, the reader gets right to the main part of the policy first.
Do you think these came from the,
they were from
Model
the model,
policy?
they were from the model policy, yes.
I mean, I think, like, having definitions like in crisis but not in immediate danger is possibly important. Like, like I wouldn't just off the cuff know what that is. I would say maybe leave it in, and then Ken or another administrator can follow up and find out why they wanted it out.
Okay.
And then we could always look at this again, but I do think moving forward an updated policy is important, and then we could always circle back.
And you've got references here, if a student is not in immediate danger but has an elevated level, I don't know,
Yeah.
if you're gonna use those terms,
Yeah.
like a
we need to
layperson,
let-
I wouldn't know, I
Yeah.
wouldn't necessarily know the
Yeah.
difference.
There you go.
Hey,
Mr. Carroll, the camera.
Get my head, sorry about that.
No worries. So I would undo that.
oof,
And then, like I said, we could always learn more about the folks that had crossed them out
Yeah.
and then come back. Like, cause I would be curious, Ken, to know, did they cross them out because they just think it's long and they don't want definitions in, or did they cross them out because they think the definitions are wrong? And that second one is really important to me.
so moving on to the policy statement, there were some questions about the out-of-school portion of this, which was added. If you look over to the right, so I think the question was, what is the procedure if it's not actually physically at school?
I'm confused about where that comment is referring to.
Where's the comment? 'Cause I don't see the comment.
Right next to policy statement.
It's up under policy statement, it's connected to the road
Yeah.
buses, which is valid, but then where is it talking about that?
There you go.
And would it cover outside of the school environment? Because that's not something that, I'm not sure it would.
Yeah, I mean, I read this, the school's responses to those risks outside of school, and I guess, my interpretation, I don't know if that's like a reaction that we would have if we learned of something that occurred outside of school. It seems difficult to envision something happening outside of school that we'd be immediately
Mhm.
notified of. I was viewing that more as reactionary as far as this happened, what steps do we take once we know about it when we're back in school.
Right.
Well, But the out-of-school piece, it says at out-of-school events where school staff are present.
Those I think are two different things.
There's two different sections. Cause it says out of school, school sponsored out of school events where school staff is present, and then it goes on to say, the policy also includes school response to suicidal or high risk behaviors that take place outside the school environment. So to me, that means student A, like, is at home, like, and making threatening statements, like, adult, let
Okay.
school know about that, and then school does something.
That's the way I read it.
The only
About-
reason why I just commented that, cause that's where the comment was coming from. When you go to the comment, it's actually highlighted from that word, so that's the only reason
Yeah,
why.
I don't think, that's why I
But
said, I
that's
don't
not
think
what the
that
comment's
comment
referring
is
to.
connected to
Yeah.
that part of the bus. I think they're saying like,
It's not-
basically, that what happened when that incident happened is not what this policy says, is what I'm reading. And then obviously the procedure stuff is not the policy stuff, so.
And as far as the next sentence, this policy also includes school responses to suicidal or high-risk behaviors that take place outside of the school environment. That would be reference to if there was a situation that happens that's not at a school event, something happens on a weekend, we get informed
Right.
to it, how are we now going to respond to that by providing
Safety plan
support,
or supports and
services, safety
yeah.
plans to that individual, as well as responding to other students
who
that
might be
involved
impacted,
in
yeah.
that. So that, I mean, that's what that sentence is referring to. I mean, that's what we do now. If there's a, if there was a situation like that now that happened outside of school on a weekend or at nighttime, you know, we're gonna be responding to that at the school level prior to that individual coming back to school and working with anyone on the outside that's involved in that.
So I think that language needs to be clarified a little bit more than like to say that school responses to suicide or high risk behaviors that the district is notified of that took place or take place, that the district
Aware of.
that the district is made aware of.
Yeah, I think made aware of is the only.
Did you see Sue Curley's comment for that one?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
So should we continue through and then decide whether anything needs to be different for whether it's a bus or an out of school, or whether it is all the same?
So in all the stuff that they took out, did they put in?
I think it's all been put back just in a more consolidated way.
I can't find classroom-based support anywhere though, where do you see it? Like when I I search the word classroom-based, cause that's like a pretty specific word?
It's under prevention and training per the Nathan Bruner Suicide Act, suicide prevention curricula for grades 6 through 12 and staff professional development will be provided. Like, it doesn't say classroom-based, but the language
Okay.
underneath that is there.
The comment about the bus. My phone goes over there. Does this imply that the bus would return to school? It doesn't imply that the bus would return to school.
Well, that's why I'm saying, let's go
It's
through
not.
it, and then if we think that there has to be a different procedure for one of them, we can go back, but
But also too, I mean, procedures shouldn't be going in the policy. We shouldn't have specific procedures in here.
No, nor do we want
No.
that. I think what they're
So-
saying is that if you're gonna have it like this in the policy, you need to create procedures that are.
I think what I mean is like, so right now it says this policy covers at school, on the bus,
Mhm.
or out of school, and I'm saying, let's walk through it, and if we go through it and we say, well, that's not going to apply if you're on the bus, we can loop back to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think to the next point, like I think the whole prevention and training part sounds fine, like the red stuff that they
Yeah.
wrote. I think that the comment about ESS, because it says substitutes and volunteers, I do think, especially for like long-term subs or folks that are there often, like you would want them to have information regarding this. I'm not sure what we hand substitutes when they come into the district, like if there's any training material about safety and security, like that could be included.
This is actually in our current policy.
Oh, I am well aware, but I'm still
Yeah.
saying it out loud.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure, but I'm not saying it doesn't exist, I'm just
Yeah.
not aware of what they get. But I do think it's important, it doesn't have to be like a full-blown hour-long training, but like some sort of information maybe, or take it out.
Like jump out the suicide training, or
Yeah, it says, that,
I'm trying to make sure I'm caught up with where you are.
yeah, so I'm on the top of page 5, it says
Okay.
all public school personnel hired, or contracted by the school district, including but not limited to teachers, administration, custodians, lunch personnel, substitutes, nurses, coaches, and volunteers will receive a training in suicide prevention every year. That's what's in our current policy, and so if we're gonna keep it in there,
I believe they created a PowerPoint that they use for training in all the schools.
Yeah, but I think the question is around the subs, right? Because we don't
And
train,
volunteers.
we
Oh, for
don't
ESS
train the
subs,
subs.
yeah.
And also volunteers, we don't train the volunteers. I think we gotta be careful of what we're putting in here around training, because they're, like, we don't train volunteers. We can't permit training on volunteers, so that needs to,
but
gotta
we
be
train
really
volunteers
careful.
that are volunteering with athletics.
not necessarily. We don't have, like, volunteers that are training with athletics. I mean, if we look at what volunteers we have, and we talk about any parent volunteer that comes in our building, we now have to train. I think we gotta be careful about putting non-employees in here and requiring them to do training.
It's already in the
I
It's
policy.
in
know,
the
but I'm
policy.
saying, like, that's, like,
Yeah.
now that we're talking
Okay,
about
so
it,
Ken's
it's like,
saying that we
how
need to
can
remove
we-
it.
Okay.
I'm
So
not
we'll
sure,
remove it.
you know what I mean, cause we don't have the, like, we can't say you're a non-employee and now you have to participate in this specific training.
Are the coaches being trained?
The coaches are training, that's all through that, what's the name of the program that they use with the sports?
Something
There's-
with our,
Yeah,
with
it's all the
the
training videos and that is.
interscholastic, whatever. Alright, so take out substitutes and
Okay.
volunteers.
Yeah. Only because the subs get a separate training through ESS.
Do they?
Mhm.
They get a suicide training through ESS?
I don't
No,
think it
they
is
have-
suicide, they
I'm
get
not
a
saying suicide,
training.
they're
Yes.
trained through ESS.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I
like,
think the
they're
goal for
trained
this
to-
sentence is not to like create a barrier, but like if you have a long-term sub that's gonna be in the classroom for a whole year, making sure that they have knowledge of identifying
Right, the
if
long
a
term,
student is unwell. So like I think that's the intent there, or like if you have a coach, a volunteer coach, that's spending 4 months
We
with a
don't
student, that
have
they would be able to
volunteer
under,
coaches, and we shouldn't have volunteer coaches.
everyone,
We've been-
everyone's paid.
We've been
Okay.
trying to,
But you know what I mean, like,
Change
that's,
that.
I'm just saying, like, that's
we
what,
are trying to.
that's what the intent is, right? Like, the intent is, if you're spending a lot of times with kids, you should know X, Y, and Z. And so I think whatever,
I mean, I would hope that ESS is training the subs,
Right.
and if they're not, I
And
think
that
that
will-
we should
and
be
that will follow
able
on
to
making sure they
say
have that
that they
piece
should.
too. So,
What'd you say?
I said we will follow up to make sure that that piece is
Yeah.
in there with ESS.
yeah, that sounds good, okay.
Okay, so are we leaving substitutes in there?
No, I think, cause we're not,
I'm more concerned about the volunteers, they're not
Yeah.
employees of us. The substitutes work through us through a vendor, and we can tell them what training they need.
Alright,
to
so
do.
let's leave in
So I would
substitutes,
leave the
we'll take out
subs, but I would take
volunteers.
out the volunteers.
So am I taking contracted out, or am I just, like, it says all public school personnel hired or contracted by the district?
we're not, there's no way that we're following that.
I mean,
I would take that out.
contracted personnel, I would take the contracted personnel out.
I think that's alluding to the ESS,
Yeah.
like, that's what it is, but that is that's a pretty wide net
Okay,
as far as
so
who we contract.
I took out contracted and I took out volunteers, but I left in substitutes. Are our custodians being trained?
Cause they're a contractor too.
Probably not. I'm being completely honest. With the
No, I-
custodians,
that's-
I think we should leave
do
them
not-
in,
I don't,
and I
but that
think-
is something that we can talk to ABM about making sure that they get this training. And I wouldn't take it out, we just need to follow up with the outside companies.
Okay, so those are resolved, right?
Except for who is determining what materials instructions. These materials and instruction are to be given by qualified suicide prevention instructors as determined by.
Yeah, we have the SOS program that we use for the suicide training for the staff.
Is it asynchronous? Is that what you're saying?
Mm-hmm.
So no one's giving it, it's just,
No, it's a paid program that we use.
But who is determining what are the materials, like it's.
That came from the state. The state gave recommended materials for us to use, and signs of suicide is what we are using. We're using with the staff. and
yep, so the
students.
district may choose from a list of recommended training materials from the RA Department of Education.
I think it's more
What part are you, what line
under,
are you
Last
using?
bullet.
in the last bullet under
Yeah.
what we were just talking about.
These materials and instructions.
Because it's not like, it's not like our employees are picking themselves, right? Like,
No,
they're
no,
being
it's-
provided with
Right.
something. So
Yeah.
who is providing them with that?
we
So
provide.
we are providing them with the training materials, the school departments.
I think what this sentence is saying is if we were having someone stand up in front of a group and talk about this, that it needs to be done by someone who is qualified in that
Okay.
instruction. It sounds like we are doing a more asynchronous thing from the
This
state, and so,
This is language, I'm just reading, it was pulled right out the model policy, so it's not specific to us, right? So I think that's where some of the question is like, that was the model language of what they said to put in this policy, but we have decided to purchase a program
Yeah.
that was recommended by the Rhode Island Department of Education, that we are telling all of our staff, this is the training you have to go through each year.
You could almost just stop it after prevention
Okay.
instructors, right? Get rid of the as determined by the entities or groups, cause
Just say,
the
but-
preceding sentence says we're gonna choose from a list that was
Or even
recommended
say
by
the school
right.
department will provide appropriate materials and instruction on suicide prevention.
I don't think you need the third bullet, I think it's redundant.
Gone, oops, no, that's not it. Okay,
You know what I mean, like it's above,
Yeah.
it says it above, that it's gonna be something that's provided by RIDE, like,
Okay.
one would assume.
okay. So then there's a reference in here underneath that to the Rhode Island Department of Behavioral Health developed the Family Behavioral Crisis Plan. This is a prevention resource designed to help families plan in the event of a behavioral health crisis, which is just kind of like out there. And then the question was, how do families obtain this resource? It's just kind of like a random sentence.
Which sentence are you on, Jen?
Right underneath that, it said the Rhode Island Department of Behavioral Health Developmental Disabilities and Hospital, like it just is basically saying that there's a behavioral health crisis plan out there, but it doesn't really say like when it would be provided, how it would be provided. Like it's part of prevention and training, but
Yeah, but it just kinda, it's not, it doesn't flow with,
no, it's a random,
Yeah,
so,
good point.
But they want, our staff wanted that in somewhere?
no, I think that came right out of the model policy.
That came out of the, yeah.
but it's not in our existing policy,
Is
so
it
it
not?
got
It looks like
added.
it's something,
No, cause black is old policy, red is go away, and then blue I think is, some of the blue is new, some of it's not
Yeah.
new.
Yeah, it got added, so, I mean, that is in the model policy. And that's actually under
it's a-
staff professional
and
development.
there is a document when you go on their website.
I was gonna say, there's a link to it from, November of 2022 on the Buda website.
Yeah, that's a document that you can create a plan with the families, or the families would create it there.
That seems
Sure.
procedural, not policy,
Yep.
unless we are mandating that they do that, it's not a policy,
I would take it
so
out.
I would take it out. Although it's not a bad thing to educate folks about and make sure our teams know about, but like it's not, that's
Yeah, it
very
just-
procedural.
Okay.
Yeah, we would, connect them to Kids Link and other places like that.
Okay, so then the next part is intervention.
What happens when you put a bunch of school psychologists in a
I
document?
So,
I appreciate it so greatly, but like we are in deep.
It's a lot of comments.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you'd get more actually.
Valid.
so if you look at the model policy, it doesn't go into all the steps, like it just kind of says,
Is there a complementary procedure document to this? Like, where is this procedure outlined? Cause like this
We
stuff.
have a risk threat assessment procedure. It's not beautifully written up right now, but there's a whole form that they have to follow in every case.
Yeah. Cause I'm just thinking like the policy would say that once the school district knows about something, they need to do an assessment and referrals. When we're getting into like bulleted lists, that's procedure, like none of that should be in here. Like the fact that they need to do it should be in here, but like that's it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I'm not supporting of all this, but what this does tell me is that they're looking for and are very clearly stating that they need more procedure language around this topic, because that's what they
Our staff is saying that?
Yes,
They
most
have a
certainly.
procedure for that.
I believe that we need to look into the procedure part of this document more closely and add clearer steps.
Yeah, I think that's just, from what I, knowing
Yeah.
these folks, they've already created this, they've sat together and worked on this, every year we work on it and tweak
Mhm.
it again. I think what they mean is if it's going to be within this
Yeah.
policy, then it'd have to be much more specific,
Yeah.
cause they have much more specificity in
Yeah,
the procedure.
who
they
added
follow.
this then?
Not sure.
this language?
That'd be my guess.
I think what happened, I think the colors changed.
No, they didn't, cause
No?
they crossed
This
out
is-
all the stuff that was in the existing policy and they added all this.
Okay.
I don't know.
What was the procedure called, Rachel?
We have a risk assessment and a threat assessment procedure with accompanying paperwork.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cause that should be referenced in here.
I was just gonna say the same thing, like take all this.
Yeah, all this
take
needs to
all
be
these
out, and it
steps
needs to just
out.
This
basically
one would be
say-
a risk assessment. Threat
Yeah.
assessment is more of a, obviously if a kid makes a threat, so.
Yeah,
This is more risk.
Yep.
That one was done through training at Bradley and which uses the Cornell system, I believe. So that's what they follow, and they've all had training on that.
last comment, maybe overthinking.
Super early. I can tell you just from the way you're saying it.
Yes. Jen, I mean, what do you wanna do with this, cause it's, we can't, like, I can't support pushing it forward because it has too much
No,
procedural stuff in it, but like,
What I'd like.
we need to re-up the policy though, right?
Yes, we have time, so what I'd like to do is
When do we have to have it to them?
August.
Our last school committee meeting is,
Yeah, we just have to, all we have to say is the policy's been looked at, there's not
Yeah.
much change,
Yeah.
we visited the policy.
Yes, we need to
and we can
re-up
tell
it.
them
Yeah.
that the policy was looked at. However, we are also looking at revising it for a future school committee meeting, and we can put that through for the annual health report. We have to just prove that we've looked at this, which we are.
what policy says what we need to do?
It's for the annual health report, it's not a policy.
I thought it was different, I thought it was connected to,
No, the annual
It's
health
the annual health
It's just the
annual health
annual-
report for the
Yeah.
state has a
Alright.
list of
Oh, yeah, it
policies
just
that
says it
we
had to be
review.
looked,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that's it.
okay,
Okay, so I would like to bring this back as another draft again to be looked at by us again, with less procedure.
I did invite the mental health workers tonight. There's a lot of activities going on. I don't believe they could come, but they are very interested in participating in this.
No, that's obvious from the comments, which I greatly appreciated.
alright, so we'll circle back on this. Was there anything tangible that wasn't procedure-wise that we should change? Like, you know, cause we could always do a small update on something and then circle back on it. I didn't see anything that would indicate that, but,
I would just hold on it.
okay.
Okay. Okay, we'll bring that one back again. Thank you, everybody. Next one is Ken, do you wanna do the GCB or the title?
No, if we can get the GCB policy, that'd be great.
Okay.
Stephanie made copies of the draft, right, you have that?
Oh, you told me that they had it online, not to make copies.
Okay. I wasn't sure, 'cause you were going to make copies, so, no, that's fine, do you each have? Do you have that?
Mm-hmm,
'Cause
it's in the drive.
Okay. Alright, so I'll let Stephanie go over this and talk about the procedure and what we did in
So-
order to put this draft together.
Yeah, so,
Which one am I looking at, Jen, the one from October?
No, it is dated from June sixth. It says proposed, it's a PDF file, proposed GCB non-unit benefits.
Is it in the policies in progress?
Yes, it's in GCB non-unit personnel.
Unrelated, not
Unrelated.
related.
June
yeah.
sixth.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
So we know that we had brought this policy before you, I wanna say the beginning of maybe last year.
In October.
Yeah, so what we did is we took the notes from there and we decided to, revisit how we had proposed the policy. We sent out, an email to all GCB staff, letting them know that we were gonna be forming a committee to look at the policy. So on that committee was myself, Dr. Duba, Leslie, Paula, the, benefits coordinator, and Joe, Rhodes, right, Joe?
Yes.
Yeah, and so we had asked for people to volunteer for that committee. And so we sent out an email to everybody asking for their suggestions of things that they wanted to see maybe being updated in the policy. Cause we know that this really hasn't been looked at since 2013 or 12. So we gathered all the suggestions and went through them and implemented, what we thought was appropriate into the policy. Then, I met with a couple of people individually who wanted to just really meet with me so they could talk about their concerns. So that was back in March. And then we had our, meeting with the GCB staff on May 5th, and we went over what we had input into the policy. From that meeting, people gave us more suggestions, and for the people who couldn't come to the meeting, I sent out the draft so that they could look at it and give me any feedback also. We met again on the 14th of May to talk about the suggestions that we had gotten from the first meeting, and we implemented some of them again. So now we have a draft policy that we would like to, talk to you about to update this policy. So the reason that we are wanting to update this policy is because we've been updating the ESP contract, and we had done some changes to the teacher's contract, and we just wanted to make them a little bit more equitable with certain pieces, and since it hadn't been updated since that 2012-13, we felt that it needed to be updated. There were things in here that got approved by a school committee several years ago that aren't in here, so we just felt that it needed to be revamped. Another reason that we wanted to visit this is we know that one thing in the back of this policy is the merit pay that people have voiced that they'd like to see removed. And to do that, we wanted to look at the whole policy together and see if we removed one thing that was a benefit to people, is there another way to compensate people in other areas that might be more, equitable. And we also wanna make sure that we're attracting staff, new staff that come here, and keeping staff, a policy that's, that they think is, fair and has what they think they need for benefits. So the first thing that we did is we addressed the merit pay and then a way to remove the merit pay. Do you want me to keep going, Kenny, or just?
Yeah, I would go through each change in this policy.
Okay, do you want me to start at the end with the merit and so then move to?
No, can we start at the beginning?
Okay, alright. So the first thing, change in the policy is we're trying to define who's in the policy. So instead of listing every single position, we're thinking that we would like to just put who is not in the policy, because sometimes a title changes in somebody's position, or we add a position and then the policy needs to be updated. So we felt that if we, in the first red part on who's not included, so it's the teachers union, the ESP union, the quotas, the OFL policy, the bus monitors, coaches, and substitutes. That's everybody who should not be in this policy. The next thing we tried to define are who are these groups, because the policy is non-unit administrative and supervisory personnel. So we were trying to define who these groups of people are, because within the policy, different people get different amount of time because they work different amount of hours. So we tried to define these terms. So the non-unit personnel are, which function outside of this, employee group, which would be the NENK, NK, ESP, GCB1, which is the coders, and PTA, GCB2, which is the OFL, bus monitors, coaches, and substitutes.
So Andrew, for that, like, I get the concept of not listing every single title or position, but like, is this the cleanest way to do it? It does not feel like it. But also, I totally understand what Stephanie's trying to do.
We
I-
did the
I'm-
same thing with one of the other unions.
Yeah, I mean, you're just gonna have to understand that anyone who's outside of these listed groups is going to be considered a GCB employee, whether you anticipated that or not.
So like,
I
what
mean,
could-
there's no easy way to do it, so I agree, but if you say everyone but these people, then that means
everybody.
everybody.
I don't love that.
It's, no.
I mean,
I know.
we can put it the other way, it's just, then like when we had PPS titles change, like my title
No,
changed,
I
people's
know.
titles.
Yeah, now you're a
then-
Positions that you add positions, you take away
Yeah.
positions, and the policy has to change.
But we can update it, I mean, it's just,
I
don't know.
totally no, and I'm not. I'm just trying to think it through. Like, I'm not. I don't think either is the right answer. But like, I get nervous when it's saying like anybody that's not on this list, because you might unintentionally include somebody in this policy that you were not intending to include in this policy.
When we give someone a contract, that's a GCB employee,
no,
does that
not everybody.
Not everybody has one.
Not all the GCB employees have contracts. That's where I
But
get
some
really
of them do.
nervous.
And that's why I was gonna say, if you're
Yeah.
doing that, then you could
That'd be
reference it,
easy, yeah.
but
Yeah,
But I brought that up when we first looked at doing this, is to create a contract template and everybody gets contracts, not to have this policy. And we were asked to not do that and to come back and just revise the policy. So we're trying to,
Asked by whom?
when we were, the last time we brought this
Yeah.
up, policy.
I think we were saying, I'm not
Yeah,
against
sure.
people having contracts, but what I think is important is consistency for what is in those contracts. So
Mhm.
I'm team both. If I made I made you think I was just team this, that was not my intent. Like, I think it's good to have one centralized place where it outlines everything so that somebody doesn't accidentally have one sentence in their contract that somebody else didn't, and you know, like, that makes me nervous, but I do think having a open-ended whoever's in GCB is not what I would recommend. Just having a simple contract for anyone that's a these people thing. Is that a good solution to that, Andrew? Like,
yeah, you'd almost have to have you'd have to have a contract for somebody who comes in but is not a union member, but not a GCB. You'd have to have something specific that carves them out of this, is almost how you'd have to do it, the way this is written.
how do other districts handle this? Like, we're not the only people that don't have union
So-
staff.
it's interesting, I mean, the places that I've worked before, I didn't have contracts and we didn't have a policy.
Yeah.
So you really didn't know what you got.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're
So
doing better than
that's-
that.
Yeah,
And I will say, I mean, my experience is that everyone had contracts, so.
That's
My
my preference,
previous
but to
departments,
Stephanie's
it
part,
wasn't.
that's not always the case. Like, I know South Kingston, for instance, has a policy
Mhm.
similar to this. And they may all have written contracts, but it's, you're hired from this day to this day, here's your
Yeah.
salary, and for
And
all
refer
other
to this.
benefits.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
refer
what I
to-
want. That is
do-
what I would like.
And if
Is
that
there
was
a
the
way
case,
to say that?
in a contract, sure, in this policy, then it would be, but you're not
Could you
gonna.
say contracted employees? Like, not, that's not the right word, but like, employees with individual contracts with the district?
Yeah,
Like,
it-
I know that's a weird way to
no,
say
you
it,
could do
but-
it. You could say not. These people are exempt, but this policy applies to employees
Only
that have
those
who have written contracts specifying GCB applicability or something. I mean, that would be
So
easy.
then we would have to write contracts.
But you'd
for-
have to, and that's the flip side. And I will say, you have to be careful with this. I'm being cautious here because it's like a pending example, but as these policies change, sometimes the benefits change in these policies. And if you've got long-term employees who are, let's say, GCB employees, and they believe they had this benefit, and they didn't pay attention to the policy subcommittee meeting 3 years later where that benefit was changed, that can become an issue as well.
Yeah, but that's why I'm more comfortable with having it though in a policy though, because if you know, like that could get you away from employees hired before this date, employees hired like after this date, or do we have to put that in? You know, like,
No, I prefer, I don't have a problem with this. I like a written contract that goes with it, and a written contract that says you need to look at policy. You know, your benefits in policy GCB may change from year to year. It's sort of your
Mhm.
obligation to look at that policy each year to determine, here's your hours, here's your
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
term, your length of term, here's your salary, and your benefits are in this policy, but pay attention to this policy, cause it could change
Yeah.
Which is
year
something
to
to
year.
change at school
the
committee
contract
discussion.
should
Exactly.
say CGCB
Mhm.
for like
Yeah.
that, CGCB for
Yep.
personal, CGCB
Yeah.
for,
Yep.
so,
Okay, so let's move under the assumption, unless Dr. Duva disagrees, of leaving the who isn't in, and then maybe adding a little bit of language of to indicate like it's those who have independent contracts with the district. Can we do that?
You can, but then you're gonna have to get all those people that don't have
Well, I was
contracts,
gonna say, but so
contracts.
does that mean for people who don't have contracts that we then have to commit to a contract term?
Yeah, or, I mean, you can
No,
make
you
it, you
could
can make
put
it an at-will
at will.
contract.
You can
Yeah.
put at will,
Yeah.
yeah.
You, you're still gonna come back actually to what Dr. Duba was saying, just in a much shorter version. You'll have your 260-day GCB employees, your 250-day GCB employees, your at-will GCB employees, whatever, you know.
so they could have one contract that kind of,
You probably have like 3 or 4 different contracts, but it would really be the length of term.
okay,
Cause I'm presuming they're not all 40-hour people, right? Some are 35, some are 40, some are less. Are there part-time people?
there,
And do the part-time people, does this address
the school
part-time
committee
benefits
clerk
versus?
is, I mean, in here. She's part-time.
Mm-hmm.
So does this provide for part-time benefits as well as full-time, or does it just talk about full-time?
Part-time would all be prorated from what's in here.
Yeah, it's prorated,
Does that position get benefits?
it could.
It doesn't though, right now, right?
She didn't select it.
Yep.
Also, I mean, benefits are also sick, vacation, I mean,
Yeah.
those days are part of benefits. So
Yeah,
health
no,
benefits.
yeah. I couldn't remember what we had decided as far as some positions are not benefited positions.
Right.
Yeah.
So supervisory 1 is director level.
Where are you, Jen?
So,
Under definitions.
Under
yes,
terms of
so
definitions.
supervisory 1 was, 12-month employees who hold a director position. Supervisory 2 were principals, assistant principals, and deans.
So where do like Ken and Rob fit in?
Well,
We
Ken
don't,
is
we're not under GCB.
They have their own individual contracts.
I think Rob
Oh, sorry,
is,
was that out loud?
So you'd have
Yeah.
to carve that out of
But
the
that
policy
needs to be
statement too then, right?
stated too, yeah.
So,
You're in GCB now.
why wouldn't they fall under administrative?
for some reason, his contract reads differently.
I think Rob's is the same way.
Are you two the only two?
Yes.
I mean, that's not uncommon.
No.
To negotiate terms with like
Nope.
people at that level. I'm
Mhm.
just thinking about consistency and like how like we either need to exempt those two positions from this or we need to align the other like not like I would imagine some of them does your contract doesn't reference this at all?
I'd have to go back and look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. We should check that, so let's make a note on that.
We'll look.
I just think we need to spell it out because
Yeah, like you put with exception of this position and this position if it's just those two.
it can
Like, cause
even
in
go-
my head it would be
I honestly think
non-unit
it's-
administrative would be superintendent.
I think it's only Kenny and Rob is actually can be in it.
What?
Yeah.
No, that didn't make sense. No, what you
Kenny
said
and
didn't
Rob
make
are
sense.
not in GCB.
No, I think Rob is and Kenny is not.
Oh, I'm gonna make my hand desk.
So
Okay, we got this. Everything's fine.
But I will look at his
Yeah,
contract.
well, let's check.
Okay. Check.
Alright, okay, so then we went to define.
sorry, I got one more thing, just because there's got to be a better way to do this. What if you have an assistant director? Where do they fall?
We do have one.
I know, that's why I'm asking. Where do
So
they
they
fall?
fall,
Nowhere.
no, they do. I think she works, I I think she works the 260 days? Yeah, so I think she's in,
Director.
I think she's
Falls
under
under the
director,
same-
she's the only one,
We looked at it.
yeah.
So it's supervisory one or administrative? Supervisory one,
Supervisory one, so we just need to add
director or assistant
director or assistant director.
So should it be classified by days versus position?
No, because there are people who are 12-month who are the,
Like the principal, well, no, that's
so
not
you have your
example.
director level, you have your principals, deans, and then there's another level of people, there's 3 levels.
Okay. So we need to change that then.
So we can add assistant director. So administrative and supervisory 1 work 260 days, including vacations and holidays, and supervisory 2 work 215 days. So we just wanted to define that, because going forward, some of the benefits offered are different, with 2 different sets.
I'm just looking at the org chart in comparison to what we're doing right now. Are supervisors called out somewhere?
Yes, supervisors are in, they work 260 days, and they're not in the director, so they are in,
Who are the non-union administrative?
it would have to be if they're
Yeah.
260 and not a
Yeah.
director.
But should it say
so they're in
It says no
non-unit
supervisor
supervisory
position,
two,
but
are
not
those
director.
employees who are included in the above,
Like that supervisor doesn't hold one of those titles,
what is it, non-unit?
right?
May hold a so non-unit administrative, that's where they are, may hold a supervisory position, but not a director, principal, assistant principal, or dean.
Which one are they in?
Non-unit administrative.
Oh. Supervisor position is different to me than supervisor title, but that's okay. If we think that's clear enough.
Make it clear,
Supervisor position and do not hold. Like I don't like and do not hold in that sentence, like it is a little confusing, like I understand the intent of like trying to call it out, but like I don't think you wanna list like directors, principals, assistant principals, or deans in 2 categories, cause if someone's just looking at it really quickly,
Okay.
like that, and I would like other people's opinions, like this is a working doc, like I'm not criticizing, this is very
Yeah.
good work, I'm just trying to think through, like if I look at something really quick and I see titles in a category, I'm gonna think those titles are included in that
Okay.
category.
Yeah, no, we can cross that and just
Agree,
leave it after
disagree.
may hold a supervisory position, period.
Are there other titles that are not supervisor that are in that category?
So the 12-month
Mhm.
employees, yeah, you could have a coordinator, a supervisor,
Coordinator, supervisor, manager,
I don't think we have any managers.
like the data manager.
Is she,
Yeah,
is
data
that her?
manager, but she's not a manager.
I know, but I'm just.
Or is she a coordinator, data coordinator, what is her title,
Data manager.
Data manager.
I'm just thinking of people that
It's not
aren't in the
supervisor.
unions,
Yeah.
which I don't believe that position is, that need to be in this document in a very specific way.
Yeah, or not in this document and
Right.
that
She's in
category
this
too.
document, but she's in the non-unit administrative.
The non-unit administrative.
Mhm. I mean,
So-
so,
So basically, the only ones not in the non-unit administrators are the directors, assistant directors, principals, assistant principals, and deans.
correct.
It's managers and supervisors that are in non-unit administrative, I think.
And
No,
and
because there's a bunch of
coordinators.
people who are just like, a couple IT people, a couple of, like,
You also have administrative assistants would be in there.
some of the secretaries, some of
assistants.
the, it's kinda everybody else,
Under administrative?
under
Non-unit
non-unit.
administrative. Your administrative assistants are administrative positions, but they're not supervisory positions.
Why wouldn't like someone that's supervising someone be a non-unit supervisory one? Like I feel like there's a difference between the director
Because,
of IT versus, you know what I mean?
well, we don't have a director IT, but we, like,
What's their title?
supervisor.
Supervisor? Supervisor of IT. Someone who's supervising other humans. Like in my personal opinion, like if you're someone's boss, it is unusual to be in the same category as them. If people disagree, that's fine. That's just my
I
own
think
personal thought.
I think we were trying to break this down by the days, cause if you look at the difference
just list the
between
days.
supervisory one
Yeah.
and supervisory two are the amount of days that they're working, right? If you
Well-
look at how that's written.
With the
Cause
exception.
you have administrators that are working 260 and you have administrators that are working 215. And
But
that's,
We
we're
have this
trying
group
to-
of other people who have coordinators, supervisors, just employees.
Are they 215 or 260?
They're 260, but some of their,
Julie's 215. She has it like the principals. And Kendra and I are in the same category.
You're 260.
260, yeah.
so,
So there's two 260s, right?
yes.
In when you all were developing this, what was your differentiation between the two?
So, the directors are the
Supervisory one.
supervisory one, right, so that's just directors, that's all in that, and the assistant director. Everybody else who works 260 days is in the other bucket.
Kinda liking that other book.
And then you have the people who work 215 days, which are the principals, assistant principals, deans.
Yep, those category differentiations I get, like, cause they're different days, right? The principals are different than the 260s. I think what I'm just putting out on the table, not necessarily saying I'm right, is that in my opinion, like a supervisor of other people, like if they're working 260 days and they're supervising other people, I would think that they would be in supervisory one versus administrative.
So that would just be IT and transportation, those are our two supervisors.
And if other people disagree, like that's just my personal opinion, is that it is weird to be in the same category as the people that you're supervising.
I agree.
If you're supervisory, so I would recommend that, and
Okay.
that also gives you a delineation, like, in addition to the days, like, you either are someone's supervisor or you're not, and if you're
Yeah.
not someone's supervisor, you're in this category, and if you are someone's supervisor, you're in this category, and then the principals and folks that have that other day
Actually, it
thing.
would be Trish too, right, she's a supervisor?
Isn't she?
Well, and Kendra and I are in the same category too, right?
No, you're the director.
Right. But we're still in the same category.
Directors and
Doesn't matter.
assistants.
It didn't matter to
No.
me, I'm just,
They're gonna move up to the other category, be supervisors.
oh, I get it, I see.
Yeah, so,
Trying to follow.
I mean, it's June,
I found it
I'm trying to
confusing.
follow me too.
So that, Kenny, that would be.
I found it.
Yeah, I
That
think
would
if
be-
you are supervising, right, I think to make it clear, if you're under non-unit administrative, you are not supervising anyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
That
that's
would
what I'm
make sense. All the
saying, and then if
definitions
you're
to it.
supervising
So the
someone, you're
supervisors
in
need to
non-unit
be-
supervisory
Yeah.
one.
So
Yep.
I can move those up to non-unit
And then Rachel, you're in
supervisory
two.
Yeah, they 12-month employees.
I
one. No,
get it.
Rachel's in one,
whole
she's
category.
260 days,
I'm just.
she's a director.
Just the principals, assistant
Oh.
principals, and deans pretty much are
Sorry.
215, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a
No,
couple
which-
others.
But I have
Yeah,
to be
that
on
two
here
six,
now.
that's
Yeah, that
directors
makes
and
sense, that makes
supervisors.
sense.
Because
So
it's-
Yeah, I
administrative,
forgot about the day thing.
supervisory
Yeah.
one are directors and supervisors.
Yep, and
Those are
assistant
260s,
director.
and assistant directors, right, directors, assistant directors,
Anybody who's
supervisors,
supervising
they're 260.
others.
Yep.
Yep,
And working 260 days, 12 months a year.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, we can make that change.
The 215,
Yeah, that's fine. Yep. Understood.
What's Julie's title?
Coordinator,
Oh, okay, but she's 215 days.
215, but her 15 are more directed than the principals.
Yep. So
Okay.
she needs to, so we need to list that.
I feel like Julie needs to go under the
Yeah.
non-supervisory too.
Yeah, or,
But she's an admin supervisor, she's not a unit, she's not like, Tara Walsh is a coordinator, but she's part of the union, Julie is not.
Right, so she's like a principal,
Correct.
yes, so I'll get her title and I'll put her there. Okay. Alright, we good with that section?
So on to the next
Julie
page.
going?
Julie will go with the principals, cause she works
215.
215 days.
Yeah.
So we're gonna
That's what
add,
that's how our contract
Yeah.
So
reads.
any administrator that's 215 is under supervisory too.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, that one's really easy, and
Yeah.
then anyone that's in supervisory
Do we-
one has
but
people that report
Do
to
we
them.
need to list principal, assistant principal, dean, coordinators? If you just say, any
215
administrator who
days.
works, that's all administrators that work 215 days.
We could, and we could
Just
cross
cross
them all
it
out,
out.
yep.
We don't even need to list it.
There's no other outliers.
That's what I was gonna say, there's no
Yeah.
clerical staff or anything
I
like
would say
that that
maybe
works.
not even administrators, just 215-day
employees, they all work,
Just
yeah.
keep it at that.
Are you sure there's no others? Cause I'm down, I like that concept, but also,
But again, we gotta make sure, we're saying
I would leave, I think that those
But these
titles
are
are not
super-
specific, they are general enough that it gives some guidance about who's where without literally naming every
Yes.
single title.
Of course.
Like, I think this is a good compromise, and I think it would help, like, if I was looking at this as an employee, like, it would help to have, like, the general titles in it versus nothing. But also, especially for those two,
And
that are
deans weren't
close.
originally in this policy, at some point they got put in and taken out of the union.
I was gonna say, they typically
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
union positions and then,
I'm not sure when it happened, but it
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
happen.
I would imagine it's because that makes sense to me as far as their roles and what they're doing
So then
with
that
their peers and
lead
stuff.
principal, assistant principal, dean,
Yeah,
coordinator.
I mean,
I think I would
it
just
helps
leave it, and then we could
people
always,
define
if we
what
find that
they
it's
like.
limiting, but I do think it, for this transition of taking out titles, it might help. Okay, so we'll change that.
Okay, so in the next section, under the work year, we tried to define that, like administrative and supervisory work, 260 days, but I guess all non-unit personnel should be termed based on the following. So it should say administrative, supervisory, and this non-unit supervisory work 260 days, and supervisory 2 work 215
Yeah,
days.
the non-unit needs to be in there.
Yeah,
Are there-
non-unit needs to be in here.
Are there no non-unit administrative employees that work fewer than 260 days? Okay.
Yeah.
Where does the,
No, I can't
yeah,
think of
or what
anyone.
about the, we have our truancy officer, that position, not 260, right? And that
She's
position
an outlier
falls
that I'm
under
not really sure
here?
is in this policy, to be honest, I don't know.
Okay.
You're doing great, Stephanie.
That was only, that was
We're
always
just gonna
a
make a note.
stipend position almost, wasn't it? Or was it salaried? I thought it was stipend, at least back in the day I thought it was.
It's not stipend.
Alright, I just wanna make sure, cause that position,
She,
we
it
need to check
follow,
that.
it follows pretty much what the teachers do, that position. I don't know,
Alright, let's confirm that,
yeah,
because
that's a separate.
Noted. Okay.
That's a separate discussion, I think.
should
We'll just note that.
you maybe carve that out up top.
Didn't
Yeah.
we say Stephanie's is less than also?
school committee clerk is
Yeah,
part-time.
school committee clerk.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's part-time, she's 260 days.
Part-time, full
Hours,
calendar though.
Okay.
but not the
Okay.
calendar.
Yeah, so 260,
Days.
I
So
can't
she would still
remember
get, she would get the
exactly.
prorated
Yeah.
benefit?
So, we haven't gotten to that yet, but she works 260 days. She works not 7 hours a day.
Alright, so
She
I'm gonna
works all
note-
year.
so we don't get in the weeds, I'm gonna note that truancy position just as like a possible
Yeah.
outlier or a possible thing that we just need to consider, and then I'm gonna note, just thinking about the part-time hours, full-time, full 260 days, like there's a difference
Mhm.
there too, and so we'll note that and then we can
Okay.
circle back on it.
Alright.
Part-time,
So, moving on to vacation. So, we just defined what we actually are doing. So right now, supervisory, 1 employee.
Sorry, Stephanie, not to,
Yep.
I would just rewrite like A, administrative and supervisory 1, and B, supervisory 2 in red. I would just write them exactly as they are above, like, so I would write non-unit supervisory 1.
Yep.
Like, I know that you have it like in the parentheses, supervisory 1, like either, just pick one, there's 3 different ways that it's written right now.
Okay,
So either like, write it, administrative, oh, I guess it's,
so it was like in parentheses,
Yeah, I see
supervisory
it.
2.
okay,
but we
Why do
can
we have to put
make it
non-unit
consistent.
in life?
The policy, this policy
The
is all
policy
non-unit.
is called a non-unit, that's
Yeah, but
why.
that's implied then.
Yeah, they're all non-unit.
Or could it just be administrative, supervisory one, supervisory two? Do we need the
I
non-unit?
think you get rid of the
You
non-unit.
think we can get rid of it? Okay,
And that'll just make it a little cleaner.
okay,
Alright,
alright,
so then that second, then we can leave that second one.
okay. So-
Alright, go ahead.
Okay, so vacation, this is just writing out what is currently happening. Supervisory, 1 employees receive 25 vacation days, administrative employees receive 20 vacation days, and supervisory 2, which are the principals, they submit calendars of their non-work days for each year, fiscal year. That's what's happening, and so it's just really writing out what is already happening.
But how many days do they get?
So the principals,
Supervisory too.
so the supervisory 2, which are they don't get vacation days.
They don't get vacation?
They work 215 days, so they get work days and non-work days and holidays.
It's all your principals, so they get the vacations and
Yeah.
then they have to
follow
work an
the
additional.
the schedule of the school year.
So I think we should spell that out in here. Cause it's weird, like you're talking about vacation days.
Yeah.
And you say, you know, category A gets X amount of days, category B gets X amount of days, and then you.
So their non-work days are their like vacation days.
But what Jen is saying.
You can call them their vacation days mirror the school
more
calendar, something to
specific
that effect.
to that category, so we know what that means.
Yeah, like it doesn't make sense, under vacation days, like you say something like their vacation days are no school days or something and they have to, like it just, it doesn't read
Okay.
clean.
Alright. So, cause I'll have to think about how to word that. Cause they have to work like so many days before school starts and they have all these requirements in their contract, so it's like these other days they can pick.
Right, so
So-
it should specifically say like they don't get vacation days or say something like per their contract or something, like it shouldn't just not
Yeah.
address the fact that they don't have vacation.
Okay, we can come up with something. Okay, so the next, should I wait?
No, keep going.
Okay. The next section are the accruals. So it says newly appointed personnel should receive vacation days in amount determined through the number of prorated days earned compared to the number of days worked. So if somebody starts mid-year, they don't get the whole amount, you prorate it. So, the next section B is talking about how many days you can carry over. In the email that I think Rob sent to you, we were questioning how many days would be allowed to be rolled over from one year to the next and we were waiting to see if the ESP contract was finalized to see what they were gonna be able to roll over for vacation days, so they're going to be able to roll over 10 vacation days, so to be consistent, we put a note on the email that was sent to you that we would like to keep it consistent, so instead of 5, we'd like to put it to 10.
So where is that?
So on the second, under accrual, so we just did vacation, we did entitlement, the next one was accrual, then it was A and number B. It says, it is expected that all personnel covered by this policy shall use all vacation days during the fiscal year in which they are earned. 5 unused vacation days, we'd like to change that to 10
To ten,
to
and
be
that's consistent with the
yeah.
ESP.
Is there a cap on that, Stephanie?
10.
10 carried over, but is
10
there
carried over.
is there a cap that you can accumulate maximum? Or you could always carry over 10 basically?
No, so I think that, does it say,
No, I think that might explain itself actually.
yeah.
You could
it's
always only take the 10, so if I had 20, I carried over 10, that next year I have 30, but I've still gotta take 20 and only can carry over 10.
Yeah,
So my
Yeah.
only
When
thing
would
on-
you ever use them?
but Penny, I don't know if you want to put in this, like we did in the other contract, about a date they need to be used by.
Like when we roll over
you have to have a,
time,
Right,
we
I
have
would
to
keep
use it within the
consistent
first
with
quarter.
everyone's.
yeah,
We've
so
been saying
we did,
by
I think we
end
did
of summer.
End of
October
summer.
first,
Well, October.
And a bunch of
Okay.
dates, but yeah.
so.
So if we're gonna choose it,
So,
if we're gonna put a date,
I
I would
think we
have it
should be
consistent with
consistent
the other
with the other
contracts.
contract.
My only thing for that is, so that's a benefit for the ESP contract. There's a big difference between an ESP employee and a director level employee. So if we're talking about equity, like is that where we're, like, is that a benefit that we specifically provide
But
to
some of the people that fall under GCB are not directors, so we were trying to
No, but I'm
accommodate-
specifically,
yeah.
and we've broken out
Yeah.
this policy
Mhm.
to align for that. So is that, we wanna apply 10 days to everybody under this policy, or?
Yeah, I would,
What are we're talking about vacation still?
yeah.
No,
Yeah,
we're talking
carryover.
about
No, the
Carryover.
carryover.
I just think that we should be consistent with
What
the
page
date
is
that we need to use the
carryover?
carryover ones by.
Page 3.
No, I'm not talking about the date, I'm talking
B.
about the
Trying to find
number.
that too.
Yeah.
Page 3.
So it says 5 now?
It says
Yeah.
5 now, when we were proposing to, when we had sent this out, we were waiting for the ESP contract to finish negotiations.
Which is still not. Not for,
No, it has been proposed.
just reminding everybody.
Right,
Mhm.
yeah.
So the number that's being proposed is 10, and I'm saying like that's something that's being offered to the ESP employees as a benefit for the ESP, and I'm saying that, you know, those 5 extra days, that's a benefit to the ESP employees, and I think that to offer this 5 extra days to a director level position, that's a different level of
But it's their
benefit.
time, it's not, it's just to, like, if you couldn't get to use it, it's not,
Why do we think it's 5 now in general?
well,
Like
especially-
5 is not a new number, right? That was the existing number?
So right now, it is, you have to ask the superintendent to carry over time,
Okay, so it's just open-ended.
yes.
Okay.
We were specifying how many days.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think
I mean,
it was
it does then say under unusual job-related circumstances, additional days may be carried over under the discretion of the superintendent. So
Yeah.
there is flexibility within that of,
So you're allowed.
We were just
Ten's
trying to be
I'm just
consistent.
ten's a
I-
lot.
Yeah.
Not that I don't want people to have their time. I want people to use their time. And if you let
Right.
people roll over that
Too
much
much.
time, and then they're rolling into September and October, like I'm just thinking about like
I'd like to talk a little bit about this. I think the 5 came from before you prorated vacation time. So let's say I took the job in July and I left in another time. They didn't wanna have to pay out a lot for
it's about you have to be
for
careful.
vacation time. Now it's prorated, it's not that big of a deal. I have almost always have to ask for this special consideration because the nature of my job is that I need vacation days to work on the things I can't get done during the rest of the week. And if I have the carryover, I can use it by the end of the summer, cause I'm able to kinda, take a Friday off or things like that, which is much harder to do during the regular school year. So I almost always have to ask if I can do a few more than 5 in order to make it all work.
And that seems what, I mean, I know
I
we
don't
want,
think it's just
I mean,
me.
for mental health, I
It's
know we
not
want
just you,
people
but it's
to
not
use
me.
their days,
that,
but.
No, but it's just,
yeah.
it's just the
There's-
timing, because we run ESY, so ESY runs from 5 weeks in July and August, and we're there to supervise that, cause the principals are not here consistently. So, because they work 215 and we work 260, so sometimes it's hard, or most people may take the whole month of July off, that's how they could get their time, or others, it gets a little bit more tricky in my type of
I
a
think it depends
position.
with certain
It's just,
directors or assistant directors
just
or,
like-
you know, depending on what their work is and when they're here
Yeah.
throughout the year, when they can take their vacation.
right.
So summer isn't always the ideal time for some people, you know,
No.
people may think that. With programs and whatnot happening, you can't always take the time off.
And then essentially there's 1 week and then I'm a retreat getting ready for school, so it's not a conducive time. And then I know, I mean, if I guess you took every single vacation week off, but then you don't have a chance to kinda catch your breath and get other projects done.
I mean, I take every vacation, school vacation, and then that's the quiet time, but
Yeah, so-
I kinda wish I could be here that
I'm fine with I think 10's fine. I think that I just googled it, like industry standard seems like 10 is a normal rollover amount. 10 days
And
is
it's just
normal
consistent with
rollover.
other,
I hear what Jen's saying though, that like that could be a certain benefit for a union because they negotiated that in, and so like these employees in theory are not in a union, so like,
They're not, so
Yeah.
that's the other thing, like, they're not in a union, but essentially, we are negotiating for them what their benefits are by coming to here, because it's a policy, so essentially, we are negotiating at this point, because we met with all of
we
them,
met as
we
like a
review what's
team.
happening,
you're
and
not
put
union
in
though.
what this is.
What,
No, hold on, I
Yeah.
understand what
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, we are proposing, right? What the benefits should be for them.
but isn't the proposal 5?
Well, when we sent this proposal,
When
we
it
sent
originally
a
was
note
5,
saying
but
that we
because
were
of
waiting.
change, we were recommending it to be the 10.
Got it. So, if it's
So that's a
10,
change.
do we pay out vacation days if somebody left?
We do, but these are already earned, so yes, we do pay them out.
And
But-
that's by law too.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But like, don't you have to have some sort of, like, we have to be able to cover that, like, financially, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
You'd be responsible for it, so
Yeah.
that was why
So we
I was
need to look
asking
at the
about
financial
the
impact.
compilation
Yeah,
of the
and
days,
so
'cause
Leslie
that's.
did look at the,
Yeah, so I think like,
Financial impact,
we need to
yes.
put something about like, yes, you can carry them over, but I do
But they
think
have
that there
to be
needs
used by
to
a certain
be,
time.
yeah,
And
there needs
that's
to
what
be
he
a
said,
thing.
and and I'll tell you, and that's what I do, when people ask me, I always put back, you can, but you have to use it by this date,
so
right?
should,
So if you don't, they're gone.
I mean,
Cause then you're not carrying over, cause you don't want it to happen where you're carrying over and it's rolling, and
Right.
all of a sudden you're rolling so many that now you have 40 vacation days.
correct, no, that's not the.
And you leave, and
yeah.
now we gotta pay out for
And
50,
actually, the
right? That's
system
not what
caps
we're
you, like,
saying.
it won't let you do that, like, when we program this to day 10, like, it won't let you go, keep carrying the over and over.
I know typically when I put it in, I said I can use these by August 15th.
I think
Just
we
need a
should
little
put something
extension.
in here in the contract,
So, I mean,
in this,
so we could do
But there's a
September
date by
1,
that date, and if not,
DSP
those
for
days are
October.
gone.
It's like, I think it's October 1. Would be my recommendation.
Okay.
Just cause that's like, it gives you an extra quarter
Consistent.
basically.
I think that's where we landed with the
Yeah.
SB, right, yeah.
Okay, so I put that there. So nothing else changed in that paragraph. The next section is holidays. Again, it's listing what we currently have. In the old policy, it lists Good Friday. That was taken out at some point. And it's.
Cause school happens,
Yeah, so, like, we have the, Thanksgiving Day, the day after Thanksgiving, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, so these are the ones that currently everybody's taking, and that, and Juneteenth was added in, so this is what's currently being done. So it's not a change, well, it's a change from one that wasn't updated after the school committee meeting, but this is what is currently happening. So, the next section is paid sick leave. There is a change to this, we are saying.
Jen, when you put this forward, you just have to mark the changes on that. Like, I think this isn't exactly the same as the one that was in the other one.
what are you talking about?
The calendar, the paid holiday calendar, like changes are in red. I think I just heard Stephanie say that they changed this chart, but the changes are not in red.
Oh, I
It's not a
thought
big deal.
Stephanie was redlining this is for
No,
policy.
Stephanie, can you just highlight in the chart,
Yeah.
just make the things that you did change from the existing policy in red?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not against it, I just always try to
Yeah.
be really clear with the school committee what changed, what didn't change. So
I
like if
wrote-
you put in Juneteenth and that wasn't in the old one, just make that
Yeah.
red.
So red,
That makes sense.
And then it just capitalized
Good Friday.
the day in Indigenous People Day. See how it's lowercase?
oh, the D?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, and I'll put that in red.
Thank you.
Okay. So for paid sick leave, I guess we put this in paragraph, there was nothing in here. All non-unit personnel are entitled to sick leave in accordance with the provisions set forth in this agreement. Sick leave may be used when employees unable to perform their duties due to illness, injury, or medical appointments that cannot be scheduled outside of working hours. Employees must notify their supervisor as soon as possible when taking sick leave. So the change in this is that for supervisory 1 and 2 and the non-unit, we gotta put that in there, whatever we're calling that group, that work 260 days are gonna get 18 sick days, and supervisory 2, who are the 215 personnel will remain at 15 days. In the next paragraph, I don't think it changed at all,
So we're adding 3 days.
adding 3 days for 260-day employees. And it's, the maximum you can accrue is 135, that did not change. next section is sick leave bank. We did not make any changes to that. We did update the sick leave bank last year, so that policy was already updated. Paid personal leave, this was,
Hold on one second.
okay, yeah.
Can we just, note what policy it is?
Yes.
Like what the sick bank policy is? And that one's written for non-unit as well? Alright, yeah, I would just reference like the exact name of the policy.
In
Yep.
the, up near E or?
Yeah.
Where it
E
says,
is
where it says
talks
by the
about
school
that,
committee
yeah.
policy, see where it says,
Okay, yeah.
just put like the whatever it is, like G, whatever the name of that policy is, just reference that one.
Okay.
But leave it as is, like I don't want all of the language replicated in
Yes.
case it changed, but just
Okay.
direct them to the correct one.
Okay.
Thank you.
So for paid personal leave, we are also saying the supervisory one and the, well, it's really everybody, we're saying all the categories would receive 3 personal days per year.
So the sick leave, there was a difference between the two, but this one they were the same. What was the reasoning for that?
So originally this one, we had 3 for the 12-month people and 2 for the 215-day employees. So that's the principals, assistant principals, deans. They came back when we had our first meeting and felt that they, they felt they needed another personal day. That was just something that they wanted, and so, and they felt strongly about it, so we incorporated it into this policy.
What's in the teacher's
Yeah,
contract?
that's what I was just looking
It
at.
was something I think it was,
So, I'm trying to think,
hold on, I'm looking it up, because there was,
so,
I thought there was reference to,
I don't know if it was the teacher's contract. But when we met with everybody, our intention was to see what people wanted in this policy and what they felt strongly about, so we were trying to incorporate
Mm-hmm.
different, the different groups of people and to try to, make them feel that, I think they felt that, these jobs are difficult jobs and, to retain people, that they felt that an extra personal day would be good for their, health and well-being.
I can't find it in the teacher's contract, not to say that it's not in there, but
Looking
I
right
can
now.
probably find it.
It's not in the index.
I know, I noticed that as well. I have the typo, that's all.
So teachers are granted 2 days. And that's what we did have at the beginning, but once we heard their concerns, that's when we changed it.
Could it be 2 for the ones that work the same amount of days as the teachers, and 3 for those who work the more?
So that was our original, so people who work 260 days, we put to 3 days
Yeah.
originally, and then the people who work 215, we had at 2.
Yep.
But when we met as a group, they
We're advocating for
We're
3,
advocating for
which I
3.
totally get and respect. I just am slightly uncomfortable giving more than what the teachers get, personally. Cause I'm sure they would also like a third person.
So it's 6:05, and we're on page 4 of this contract. It's 13 pages.
Well, some of
Policy,
it,
it's not a
honestly,
contract.
is just copied right out of the teacher's contract and plopped right in, like, the bereavement, it's exactly the same.
what are the other main,
So, I mean, honestly, this is one of the big ones, right? family illness, it's
Family
just
illness is
the
right out of
same
the
language from the
NKSD
teacher's contract
Wait, can
about,
we- I know you're trying to move us along, Jen, but I'm not gonna
I'm not
vote for
trying
you.
to move anything along,
Yeah.
I'm just stating the obvious.
Yeah.
So we either keep going, or can we go
Get
past
stable.
6, or
Yeah.
we're stuck here on this one for tonight.
oh, I didn't realize it ended at 6.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, okay.
I mean, we can go back around the personal leave. And bring, yeah, I mean, that's in question. The family illness, the bereavement, that was pulled right out of the NK contract, absence due to death, so that language is the same. The parental leave was already in there, the health and dental, that was just fixed, that was supposed to be 20% based on a previous school
Yeah,
committee, but
because
it was
the school
in there.
committee meeting.
The retirement, was there any,
Retirement, there is, hold on, health and dental is what we're doing now, that's what's in that school committee, meeting.
okay. What about upon retirement, if compensated 50%?
Alright, here, let's do this. I think we should move it to the school committee.
Okay.
I just wanna
and
make sure
then-
that if you have questions, we get it, that's why I was just trying to do it
I
quickly.
know, but like, I know, but I can't do it that fast, is kinda what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot more stuff in here about longevity and about,
Right.
like,
Degrees.
compensation for degrees, like, it's not just copy and paste from things that we've already seen.
No, I was trying to
Yeah.
get, like,
Yeah.
quick.
What you
little-
don't have to talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is
Get
our
your list, you
teacher
The meeting ends
contract
at 6 though,
versus-
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I'm fine staying, but I know Ken has somewhere to be.
I'm not going anymore. So, knew how long.
Hey, but I'm
this
not
point, so-
staying.
Yeah, I
For-
just- so-
And if I leave, you're done, so.
I know. So realistically.
Due to quorum,
the
not because
school-
of me.
yeah,
Just
the
wanna
school-
make that clear.
The school committee has one more.
Yeah, it's like we're done.
So
We'll see this in
we're done
September.
regardless. So I don't wanna push it forward without having reviewed it. We have one more meeting in June. I would rather review
Yeah.
it.
And then have it be good for
Right.
September.
Yeah, I understand that you wanna, push it through, but I mean, respectfully, we've been waiting for this since October.
In theory too, if the school committee wanted to, they could
Yeah,
retro it back to.
I understand, but I will say that we did this in October, and there were a lot of other things that came across, like, things that we had to work on and do.
No, no,
so
no,
that's why
I
it took so long.
understand,
It wasn't
but-
like we didn't, and then it took us, like, we went through this for a very long period of time of meeting with everyone. It took a lot of time to actually get to this
Yeah.
point.
Right,
of
but
where
it-
we
it
are.
What I
just
was gonna
came to
say,
us.
Yeah.
in theory, could we retro it? If we approved it in September, could you retro it back to July 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Okay,
we
so,
could achieve
yeah.
the same thing
Yeah.
without, but
Without
keep working
rushing,
on it.
Yeah.
Not saying that we would do that, but you
Right.
could do that.
You could do that, yeah. I'm more comfortable with that than rushing to push
Uh-huh.
it through.
Can I also ask one more thing,
Mhm.
just for, like, this being worked on, so, and if they have questions and stuff, we're gonna have, like, policy meetings to be able to review.
But we have one more
I
policy.
think they just said there's one more
Yeah,
policy
there's one
meeting
more,
in
but I'm
June,
just
right?
thinking, like, Jen and Aaron have questions about anything, they can send us questions about this, and that way we can get information back to
Yeah.
them about why
As
some
long
of
as
these
it's
things
not,
are put in.
yeah, as long as you're not discussing amongst the quorum.
Mhm. Alright.
Okay. So let's make sure everybody can make our next meeting,
What
which
is
is
that?
the 23rd.
I won't be here.
We need Rob though.
So Ken, you won't be here, but can Rob be here?
I can't answer that for him,
Okay,
but
What was the date?
the 23rd.
it was on the calendar.
It is on the calendar, yeah,
I'm good.
okay.
It's on the school committee calendar? Like
No,
on
no,
the,
like our calendar, like
Our
we have it on
calendar.
our calendar.
can you look and see if I'm on that?
Um,
I very much believe you, but I am not seeing it. And I remember being annoyed by it because it was after the last day of school.
Yeah, 6:23. You even accepted it,
No,
so-
no, I believe you,
Yeah.
but just so you know, I'm not hallucinating. It's alright, we can do it. I believe you, I just don't see it. Alright, we'll do it that later.
Okay. Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second?